Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was created in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Able19985. The post is titled AITAH because I call my psycho ex's unrelated child my nodder, buckle up. 15 years ago, I was 25 and finishing my contract, and my then GF of 3 years, Natalie, was acting increasingly strange. I came back from a 2-month assignment and was prepared to break up with Natalie. She came by and gave me the good news. She was pregnant. I asked how far along she was. She said 5 weeks, so I broke it off with her and told her she needed to do better at math. She refused the breakup and insisted the baby was mine, so I told her the following: 1. Paternity test, and 2. If the child was mine, we can talk about financial support and custody arrangements with lawyers. She refused both and told everyone we both knew that I was a deadbeat for knocking her up and leaving her. I told everyone I was on a 2-month assignment when she conceived, but a few insisted for the sake of decency, I house her and give her limited support. I consulted a lawyer about this mess, and the lawyer made it very clear that any overt support I give could be seen as me taking responsibility. So I told these friends that, and most dropped it except one guy who again insisted that charity couldn't be used as a legal cudgel like that. I asked him if he believed that he could house her. He agreed to drop it after that. The child was born and not even going to do the whole "she didn't look like me" because most babies are born with squished faces. And all I saw were the pics she sent me with messages like "Emma wants to know where daddy is" and shit. She still refused to take any paternity tests, but her constantly showing up with that baby got to the point where I filed an RO. Fun fact, in my state, a permanent RO is not in fact permanent. It is 2 years long. The only way to get it longer is if there was a violent crime associated, and apparently bugging someone with a baby that's not theirs is not a violent crime. So my life for the last 14 years has been me renewing the RO every 2 years because once it clears, Natalie shows up again with my not child. I did eventually find a nice girl, get married, and now I have 9-year-old son, Henry. My wife Kim is well aware of Natalie and Emma. When the cycle begins again, I always say the same thing. 1. Paternity test. 2. Once paternity is proven, I will take custody and get financial support set up. Natalie always refuses and says both are insulting. Recently, the cycle started again, and this time Emma showed up first. She approached my son during a school event, a visit to the zoo, and said, "Hi, I'm your big sister, Emma." Henry knows about stranger danger and ran away to a teacher. I had to have a very painful talk to the teachers and parents that were at the event about my relationship with Emma and Natalie and how Emma was never my daughter. I even called her my nodder once or twice in the conversation. After the group disbanded, one of the mothers confronted me and said that while Natalie was in the wrong telling this poor child I was her father, calling her my nodder was mocking this situation. I kind of get where she's coming from, just I can't help this child. And the honest truth is playing light of the 2-year cycles is the closest I can get to finding peace in the situation. Edit. To answer the repeated question in my state, the mother has to start the petition for the father to be established and the test to start. There is no instance where a father can start the petition. There was a chance to do this when Emma was born, but the window was exactly 1 month, and I was much too focused on the RO, not thinking the paternity angle would bite me in the butt. One last time. To everyone saying, just ask for custody. That'll force DNA test. Literally can't be done. I have been through this enough with a lawyer and have consulted with other lawyers. There are laws protecting children, and a lot of them exist for good reason. I'll explain it the way my lawyer explained it. Imagine there's a woman who ran from an abusive ex. She finds out after she escapes she's pregnant. She gives birth, never puts the ex on the birth certificate, and never tries to file for support because she wants to get as far away from him as possible. He finds out years later and tries to rope her back in using the child as leverage. She can just say no, and the state has to let it go. There is, however, a provision if the father was involved enough to know when the birth was, that he could submit his DNA to the state within 31 days of birth as a potential father, but that time has long passed. The law is designed this way on purpose. In the eyes of the family court, I am a random person, and I was never claimed to Emma. If you think the state wants all children to be claimed by fathers and will gladly submit any DNA test whenever any potential father shows up, find a random single mom, call the family court, and say you want to claim her child. I am tired of everyone acting like all I needed to do was fill out one sheet of paper and this nightmare would end. Please just call a lawyer for a free consultation or post on legal advice and ask them. It doesn't work that way. User Shay2202 said, have you considered reporting your ex to CPS? She is emotionally abusing her daughter. She is telling her that you are her father and don't want her, and she dropped her off at the zoo to find your son and tell him that she is his sister. If you report this along with the constant restraining orders, surely CPS would intervene and at least interview her daughter to find out what else she is being brainwashed with and interview your ex as a potential danger to both her daughter and your son. The fact that she is following your son should be enough to take further measures. User DappledTurnoff0A said NTA. I can understand why someone would think that this is callous, but it's your business and you've every right to use humor to try to deal with it. Don't say that to Emma. Considering that she believes your mom, that would be pretty rude. Now, the burning question, how did she find Henry while he was on a field trip? Under this comment, OP said the following. We suspect Natalie befriended a mom at the school and got a class schedule, then dropped Emma off at the zoo to be with her brother. Since we are unrelated, I have no idea what school Emma goes to or who Natalie's friends are. We are being very reactive to the situation, but because there are children involved, my lawyer said that that's the best we can do, and any type of investigation into Natalie beyond where to send legal paperwork could make it seem like mutual contact and hurt any future ROs. User DestinyKane48 said, look, it's time to tell that child that you have been willing to do a paternity test since she was born. Tell her you are absolutely willing to get tested and have always been willing to be in her life if she's yours. Let her ask her mother why she has refused the test and thus denied her a relationship with her father. Her garbage mother has lied her entire life. It's time the poor girl finds out you aren't her father. Then maybe she'll be able to find her real dad and get away from her horrible mother. User Beck2010 said, why haven't you sued her for slander and or defamation? You have an attorney. You've had to get multiple protection orders. You've had to call law enforcement to remove her from your property. And now she's dropping a child alone at a zoo to find you. All the while, she's telling people you're a deadbeat. For crying out loud, end it now. I would imagine there's more than enough evidence to file a suit and demand a paternity test within the complaint. OP said the following under this user's comment. I have a lawyer on retainer just for this and we have gone through all options. Before the child was born, there was a good chance I was the father due to the fact we had a relationship. If Natalie believed it to be true at the time, it was not slander. This continued until the first RO. After the first RO expired, permanent RO needs its name changed, she phrased it as, don't you want to be her father? The second RO was the last time she posted anything online, and again, it was so close to the birth that it was muddy. After that, whenever the cycle started again, she always was very careful with her words in public and rarely put anything in writing. And again, the paternity test is pretty much a dead end. I have tried to push for it, but if Natalie didn't legally state I was the father or asked for any support, the court's attitude is to not force the test. Just 2 days after the first post, we got an update. I got off the phone with my attorney. We have a preliminary hearing on the new restraining order this week. We will most likely be issued a temporary RO, and then after that, there will be another hearing for the permanent RO. Child Protective Services is investigating Natalie and Emma's living situation. The teacher's report held a lot of weight, and my lawyer thinks that this might actually be a way to end the madness now. In family court for minors, there exists something like a temporary court-appointed guardian. I think the term is guardian ad litem, who is only a guardian for legal purposes, procedures, and decisions, including medical ones. If the family court appoints such a guardian for Emma, we can ask this temporary guardian for the DNA test and finally put this issue to rest. The madness might actually have an ending in sight. Adding here, I feel like I need to explain the relationship I had with Natalie all those years ago. When I got back from my 2-month assignment, I was already dead set on breaking up with her. Her "oh wait, I'm pregnant" was never going to make me marry her. In fact, I doubted she was pregnant for several weeks. In the last year of our relationship, several red flags appeared in her behavior, ranging from demanding that I check in with her while at work, only hanging out with friends with her present, and experiencing extreme bouts of jealousy if I ever seemed too friendly with women, including waitresses. I was in a line of work that required me to be away for long periods, which she hated, but it also kept me out of her reach for extended periods. I think it was halfway through that last year that I realized when I was away I did not miss her. In fact, I was relieved to plop into a cot and fall asleep after long hours of work without thinking about her. When the pregnancy turned out to be real, I made it clear that with a paternity test I would pay support, split custody, and be a co-parent and nothing more. She wanted me to be her husband, no questions asked. No test, just pure blind faith and devotion to her and the child. The test, she insisted, was insulting. There was never going to be a relationship, and there was no relationship to salvage with Natalie. On the advice of the first attorney I hired, the deal was no test, no contact. User The Crown and Anchor said, "That poor girl, she'll grow up either believing OP to a deadbeat dad, or she'll grow up knowing the truth and knowing that her mom is trying to game the system and get money from a guy who is not the father of her child. Either way, she's gonna have a lot of stuff to work out in therapy one day." Frankly, I can't believe OP does not have any legal recourse to force a paternity test. You'd think there'd be one judge who was so annoyed with the constant restraining orders that he would have ordered a paternity test to rid the court system of this bullshit. User Not a Doormat No More said, "That last line. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I read that last line and I was relieved. Can't imagine how you feel." Congrats on using all the legal tools as they were intended. I hope the next update is you are not the father, surprising no one, and the RO is permanent, if that's even possible. I'm not sure how they work. OP's ex is so infuriating. It's one thing to try and mess with OP's life by dragging him back into a situation that he was not involved in. It is an entirely different thing when she is involving her daughter in these kinds of situations. Like how many people already said in the comments, the child is the one who is suffering the most from all of this drama. Another 2 days later, we got another update from OP. The preliminary hearing on the new RO went well. Emma and Natalie were there, and we discovered that Emma is currently living with her great-grandmother and has a guardian ad litem, court-appointed guardian on legal matters. My lawyer thinks this means whatever was found in Natalie's home situation warranted removing Emma and was potentially severe enough that the great-grandmother only has physical custody, necessitating the appointment of a guardian ad litem. During the hearing, we went through the whole song and dance, the past ROs, the whole deal. My lawyer turned to Emma's representative and said we were willing to submit to a DNA test and put this to bed. Natalie looked like she was having a conniption at that, and her own lawyer urged her to shush. Emma's representative accepted, and we were cheek swabbed in the courthouse. A temporary order is now in place while a second hearing is scheduled in the upcoming weeks for the permanent 2-year order. The order covers immediate family on both sides, and as I've detailed in the past, Natalie is actually good with following court orders, oddly. We have about 4 weeks before we have the definitive test results back, but I am not too worried either way. P.S. There were some people who thought the court couldn't use Charity as a cudgel was the father. Well, that's Jim. I haven't talked to Jim in 10 years, but Jim is gay and hated Natalie. He just also happened to be a give the shirt off his back kind of dude, and as long as I knew him, he volunteered at a food pantry. His protest came mostly from naivety, not self-interest. After about a month, OP gave us another update. We got the results in late last week, as did Emma's party. I am not the father. Natalie had a major blow-up when she heard the news from her grandmother Sylvia. Emma's currently living at Sylvia's and is out of Natalie's custody. This blow-up included a major tantrum on my front lawn, which also violated the temporary RO. Natalie has been arrested and Sylvia hasn't bailed her out. Sylvia has communicated to my lawyer that she wanted to give her apologies for bankrolling Natalie's life for the past 15 years. I only met Sylvia a few times when I was dating Natalie, and I know Natalie grew up with her and Sylvia had money, but was never really told the extent of that. Sylvia has communicated via my lawyer, which is technically allowed with the RO in place, that both she and Emma want to send me an apology via a letter. I told my lawyer they were free to write whatever letters they wanted as long as this was the last communication we had with them. The permanent RO is certainly going to be granted now, with the emergency one violated. We still don't know what caused Emma to be removed from Natalie's care, or if Natalie has any underlying issues. If we do get the letters, I will post them. After another 6 days, OP gave us the most recent update thus far. I received the letters on Friday after my lawyer read them and deemed them acceptable. Sylvia's letter detailed that Natalie had a rough family life, which I already knew about. Natalie's father ran out, then her mother, leaving Sylvia to raise her. There was a lot of "I did my best with what I had." Sylvia mentioned that she and Emma will be okay. She still has some money, not you money, but enough for Emma to have a very decent jumpstart in life when she turns 18. Sylvia housed Natalie and Emma in a house she owned in the city, while Sylvia lived about an hour north, out in the country. She sent Natalie money monthly for expenses and saw them about 4 times a year: birthday, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Regarding Emma's living situation, the only thing Sylvia said was that the photos she saw of the city house broke her heart. Needless to say, Sylvia pledged not to enable Natalie anymore. Emma's letter was much sadder. It started with "Father who is not my father," which I found strange. She explained how Natalie told her that if she behaved, I would accept her. My acceptance of her hinged entirely on Emma doing as she was told. Emma said Sylvia has her in therapy and that Natalie told them both that I was dodging the test using legal loopholes. She said seeing me suggest the test in person made her feel like Natalie was right, that I was able to accept her. She felt happy and hopeful. When the results came in, she said it was worse than not knowing at all. She apologized for scaring my son, brother who is not my brother, as she said in the letter. There is a strange tone to her letter, and I feel like she is coming to terms with things. The letter was painful to read, but both of them pledged not to interact with us anymore. Natalie is still in jail. Maybe it's finally over. User Brisa Takul said, "This is heartbreaking for Emma. This poor girl has been lied to and led to believe her behavior was why you didn't accept her. Her mother obviously had her extremely convinced that there was no other option. It seems clear she only wanted a connection with her father, and now she's found herself without one and no knowledge of whom he may be. Never mind the fact her mother has lied to her for her entire life. Thankfully, it sounds like she is with someone who will do what they can to make sure she heals from this as much as possible. Hopefully, therapy will be effective for her. She sounds to have a sense of humor about it though. The father that is not my father and brother that is not my brother is a bit funny. That's a coping mechanism. I hope she does well, and I'm glad to hear you should at least be done with worrying about Emma contacting you again, hopefully. Natalie will probably still be a problem, but hopefully the next 2 years will give her time to think about her actions and maybe be more concerned about her daughter than dragging you into her drama." User Fionnegan Feisty Paws said, "For what it's worth, father who is not my father sounds like a child who has believed their whole life that you were her father, but you're not, and she has to figure out how to know that, but overcome all the baggage she was given around you. Same with your son. She lost out on a father, which is true, but speaking from experience, realizing the depth of the lies and bullshit your abusive parent fed you your whole life is rough. She lost the image of who she thought her mother was too. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry this happened to Emma. You were both victims in this, and I hope you're both able to heal and move on." User Similar Afternoon 427 said, "I'm so sorry about all of this. On the bright side, Emma is going to have great lore. The way she describes you as father who is not my father and your son as brother who is not my brother means that she's trying to cope. She's going to be a very funny girl. I'm happy she's going to therapy. Maybe she'll learn better coping mechanisms than just being funny and joking, trying to be unserious in very serious situations. I understand this to some level because I'm like that. If anyone here is reading my comment, listen to me for a second. Let's have a real talk. Making jokes and being unserious will only be helpful for a short period of time. You'll end up stuck in a place where you want to make others laugh and be happy because nothing makes you happy anymore. I get it. I'm 16 and I'm that kid. If you don't have a therapist to help, Emma is very lucky to have one. Then listen to me. Find a song that makes you want to dance around. One that genuinely makes you happy when you listen to it. It's probably one of those old songs. I promise you that will help your mental state more than destroying yourself trying to make others happy. I'm telling you, this helps. Or maybe it's my autistic brain that gets happy at silly songs like that when I'm in a rut. I hope this helps whoever reads this." User Noah Sawyer 95 said, "It's not over. Natalie has nothing left to lose by harassing you. Before all this, she was worried about her daughter being taken away, but now there is no real consequence for her. I may be interpreting things wrong, but she does not seem like the kind of person mentally capable of viewing jail or prison as a punishment, as it is a less tangible penalty than having her child taken away. She probably views jail or prison as just another location where she does not have her daughter. I highly suggest you move. Natalie may escalate this to violence, and there is a very real chance that she will direct her anger at your son, the child you loved when you didn't love her daughter. She may also be in the mindset that if she can't have her child, why should you have yours? An RO is just a piece of paper, not a magic shield. It only works if the person it's against is afraid of the penalties they will face if it is violated. Someone who breaks a restraining order once will likely do it again. Keep your family safe." User Husky Mom 0810 said, "My heart really goes out to Emma. The poor kid didn't deserve any of this, and neither did you, but she's just a poor kid who was misled and manipulated by her mother. As a single mother whose ex isn't on the birth certificate, he wanted a paternity test. In my state, it's super easy to get one because they like nailing balls to the wall for child support, but the father has to petition. I told him such, and he never did. This actually really hurts. I hope Sylvia and Emma can locate her actual father. Maybe he can give her some actual closure or even guidance if he wants a relationship. As for you, I'm glad that this is over and that you, your wife, and your kid are safe. I would definitely suggest moving and or relocating to a different area if it's feasible. I know historically Natalie was really good with restraining orders, but the arrest and losing Emma have me concerned because now she has very little to lose to violate the restraining order going forward. If moving addresses or relocating are not options, then I would recommend a security system." I really liked how that one user put it. Not only did Emma get confirmation in losing a father, but she also lost her biological mother in a way as well. She gaslighted Emma into truly believing that OP was her dad. Something even worse than knowing your dad is not in your life is having the hope that perhaps you know who your biological dad is, just to realize that it was all a lie. As Emma gets older, she's going to come to understand that not only was she fed a lie, but she was being used as a means for her mother to lock down OP. Truly a disgusting person. This next post was also made in the AITAH subreddit. It was made by a user named Downtown Aspect 3873 and is titled AITAH for reporting a woman to HR who misunderstood my comment and getting her fired. Throwaway account. I, 32M, have been with my girlfriend for 7 years and we're really happy together. My girlfriend works in the service industry and I was raised with 3 sisters by a single mom. I'm all too aware of the creeps that women have to deal with on a daily basis, and I try to be vocal when other guys cross the line and stand up for them like I would for my sisters. I work in a specialized industry where reputation is everything, and I have built a pretty good one over the years. 3 months ago, a new woman, 24F, I'll call her Kristen, started working in our central office. She made it uncomfortably clear that she was interested in me by always standing too close and finding reasons to touch me often. I observed how she interacted with other people to be sure this wasn't in my head. It wasn't. She was always touching my arm, picking something off my shirt, etc. I made a point of talking about my girlfriend frequently and showed no affection in return. I could tell she was disappointed when I finally said I needed a little more personal space and started to keep my distance. I didn't talk about it at work, but I updated my girlfriend daily. Kristen was always lurking around my cubicle, trying to listen in on my conversations, but when she tried to insert herself into our discussions, I found reasons to walk away. Kristen cornered me a little over a month ago in the break room and told me in front of 2 other women that I made her very uncomfortable the day before. She claimed she overheard me insulting her and other women's appearances while talking with other guys from the office. I had no idea what she was talking about, and the other women who have known me for a long time kind of laughed it off. It was really awkward. I walked out after telling her I had never said anything like that. I was shocked and just wanted to get out of there. One of the women approached me after this and told me what Kristen shared with them after I left. She said that I and the other guys were complaining that it wasn't fair they had to work with her while the other women were so much hotter. After some confusion, I thought about it and understood. The day before, a group of us, men and women, were discussing how one side of the office was getting a bigger air conditioner when the other side, which was in front of the larger windows with direct sunlight, was much hotter. It wasn't fair that one side was much hotter, and it is. I really felt terrible because even though she was eavesdropping and misunderstood, that would be a hurtful thing to overhear. I immediately went over to her desk and explained what happened. She looked angry and said, "Whatever you say," while shuffling papers around. Later that day, I saw her speaking quietly to a woman near her and staring daggers at me. The woman she was talking to looked surprised and watched me. That night, after discussing it with my girlfriend, she told me I needed to go to HR. I didn't want to at first because I didn't want any record of me doing something I didn't, but she convinced me that things like this don't go away and it could blow up my reputation. The next day, I talked with HR and asked them to facilitate a conversation between me and Kristen. When HR asked about how we work together, I hesitated and tried to talk around it. After some coaxing, I did mention some of her behaviors towards me, but made sure to say she had never crossed the line. At the end of the day, HR called me in to follow up and said they appreciated that I was proactive because the situation was resolved positively. They told me to let them know if anything else came up and mentioned they didn't think there would be any more issues. I didn't get any more details than that. I thought everything was okay until later that night when I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail and listened to the message. It was Kristen screaming at me for trying to gaslight her and make her out to be the problem. She said she knew all my guy friends would cover for me and that I might have everyone else fooled, but she knew who I really was. My girlfriend and I talked about it and agreed that she had some real issues and that I should send the message to HR that night and avoid her the next day. I got to work later in the day after a morning consult outside the office and walked in on Kristen angrily talking to a few people about the meeting with HR she had that morning, saying I was immature and a creep. I turned around and walked away. She realized I heard her and followed me, begging me not to tell HR she was just talking about the meeting. She said she wasn't supposed to talk about it. She begged me and cried, saying she needed the job and had no power in the situation and it wasn't fair. She begged me to do the right thing. That did give me pause because I realized she really believed she heard me say things about her. It also occurred to me she might be reacting to someone who did this to her in the past. I just ignored her and called my girlfriend. She agreed that there were probably some deeper issues going on, but she said I had to report it. It was not going to stop and she was damaging my reputation. I sat down at my desk, recorded every detail of what I heard her say, and asked for support to resolve this. Kristen was let go that night. She sobbed on her way out. It was all around terrible. I found out later that after HR first spoke to Kristen, they had immediately called in a few people to ask about the original conversation about one side of the office not being hot. They spoke to both men and women. They had a clear picture of what happened, explained it to Kristen, and warned her not to malign my reputation with gossip that was not true. They also warned her against contacting me before she sent the first voicemail. They thought she understood it was a misunderstanding and were very surprised and angry that she called me. The night she was let go, she yelled at everyone and told them I was a pervert and probably a There's one woman who was Kristen's friend at work who thinks I'm a huge asshole. She says Kristen was young and vulnerable, and I ruined her life instead of just letting it go after apologizing. Apparently, Kristen can't even get a job interview in our field in the area because everyone knows about this. Gossip spreads fast. Everyone else in the office is glad she's gone. I guess there were some other uncomfortable things she was doing with other people. I don't know all of the details, and at first I thought we all dodged a bullet, but this one woman will not stop trying to make me feel guilty, and it's working. She says I'm denying responsibility by saying I talked with my girlfriend. She talks about male privilege, and the thing is, she's right that males do have much more privilege and women really aren't believed enough. I agree with her about all that, but I really didn't say these things. She says every man says that. She brings it up every time I see her. Did I make a big deal out of nothing and ruin some young person's career? Am I part of the real problem I claim to fight against? Update. For everyone suggesting I report her friend, I really don't want to. I think she genuinely believes she's speaking up for her friend and is in the right, and I don't want to be known as the guy who runs to HR whenever there's a disagreement. I think people know she's wrong, so I'm less worried about that. I didn't want to see anyone get fired. I was sort of relieved, but when she left crying, she looked really desperate, and I just sat there blankly. I didn't feel vindicated. It's upsetting to think someone is going to go through her whole life thinking of me as a bad guy. User Virtual Choir Boy said NTA. You do realize you're going to have to go to HR about Kristen's friend, right? Start documenting your interactions with her because this will snowball quickly if you're not careful. As for dealing with Kristen, you did exactly what you needed to do to protect your reputation and, in turn, protect your value as an employee to the company. It seems almost as if Kristen suffers from main character syndrome and has now, unfortunately, discovered the fact that nothing could be further from the truth. Under this comment, user PlentyTaro8375 said, "You're still being harassed, albeit differently, but Kristen still has BS spouting. I think it's part and parcel of your original complaint, just via a different person. Notify HR and let the chips fall before these people manipulate you anymore and you're the one out of a job. This stuff gets sticky fast." Then user Bloody Hell Harry said the following under the comment. Her friend's position is only valid from the perspective that OP did say those things and he is in the wrong. He is like, maybe she genuinely believes that. Okay, well, she is genuinely wrong. Take her to a meeting with HR. Ask her in that meeting if she is to assume for a moment that what you're saying is true and you did not in fact say what Kristen claims you said, how would she suggest you handle someone spreading vicious lies about you in the workplace? How would she expect you to handle a coworker sending you threatening and harassing messages despite being warned not to? How would she expect you to handle being called a racist and a pervert if that is not true? Let her object to your very reasonable actions in front of HR. User Frozen Introvert said, NTA, you did the right thing. She was damaging your reputation, and as your GF said, likely wouldn't have stopped. You had to get out in front of it. Maybe she was mad you weren't interested in her, maybe she's just toxic, but you aren't at fault in any way. The one person in the office who was her buddy and is mad at you is wrong, but you can't make everyone happy. Move on with your life. User Brave Letterhead 6291 said NTA. She did not act professionally. If she wants to be taken seriously and excel in her field, she needs to act accordingly. She didn't respect your boundaries and she gossiped and spread rumors about you that weren't true. She is reaping what she sowed. Hopefully, she has learned her lesson now and can change her behavior while she's still young. User Necessary Mood said NTA. She refused to respect your boundaries, eavesdropped on your conversations, violated the terms given by HR, disrespected you, accused you of and she could have ruined your entire career as you said it's based on reputation. She had the chance to change her actions and she decided that she wanted to keep trash talking you because you're in a relationship and refuted her advances. Don't feel bad because she dug the hole for you and was upset when she had to lay in it. User ShadeFX1 said, Kristen was told that both men and women confirmed the conversation was about ambient temperature. She said harassed you, kept pursuing you every time you walked away. When you rebuffed her, she spread malicious false rumors about you. When HR explained it was a misunderstanding, she left an unhinged voicemail on your phone after HR told her not to contact you. Then she spread even more gossip about you just before another HR meeting. After she was fired, she got her friend to continue the harassment. What male privilege do you have? Do you have any idea how lucky you are that women were part of the conversation about how hot the office was next to the window? Kristen said your male co-workers would cover for you. If it was a group of men's word against Kristen's, you'd be destroyed. If you didn't have that voicemail, no one would have believed you. She yelled that you were a on her way out. What's next? A false police report against you? You'd better have a witness and an alibi for every minute of the day from now on. She was determined to ruin your reputation and perhaps get you fired because you didn't want to date her. This is more than immaturity. She received many warnings and repeated chances and threw them all away but blamed you. She still doesn't get it. Be prepared that she's out there setting your reputation on fire. User Constant Host 3212 said NTA. You did not make a big deal out of nothing. You ignored her creepy, harassing type behavior. You tried to resolve a misunderstanding directly with her, but she would not allow this, so you had to protect yourself and go to HR. You didn't ruin Kristen's career. Kristen did. HR investigated, corroborated your account, explained this to Kristen, and cautioned her not to spread gossip about you. Kristen could have let it go at that point. Instead, she doubled down, going against HR instructions by calling you and making it clear she was not letting it go. Then she tripled down by calling you a creep after she had a second HR meeting. Kristen ruined Kristen's career with your company. Kristen's friend is misguided and needs to be shut down. Male privilege is real, but does not require that men tolerate misbehavior in the workplace from women. Source: a woman retired after a successful career. User Maximum Dealer 6208 said, "You didn't do anything wrong where Kristen is concerned. HR checked that your conversation was about the room temperature and explained it to her. They also told her not to contact you. She still had a job. All she had to do was stop bad-mouthing you and leave you alone. She didn't. She went so far as to hunt down your phone number to scream at you. That's why she's unemployed now. And why is she screaming at you when she knows that you didn't do anything wrong? Because you rejected her and she couldn't handle it. She's too immature to work with adults. You do need to tell HR about her friend. Maybe HR can explain to her that Kristen is at fault and she is in danger of making the same mistakes, and maybe she should be more focused on her work instead of OP. I don't think OP did anything wrong here. Above all else, you need to protect yourself in these public settings, such as your job. And just like how someone else said, OP should also inform HR about Kristen's friend. The fact that this woman thought that spreading lies and threatening people would pass is insane. These kinds of people have never been humbled before in their life. OP is doing the world a favor by indirectly getting her fired. If she never gets pushed down, she will just continue to be an asshole to everyone she encounters in her life.